All right, so we're kicking off a series called The Grudge, and I have my own little cactus here that I picked up from Lowe's this morning. We want to just be talking about, okay, why does it look like, and why do we carry things that are painful to us? Why do we hold on to things that end up hurting us? Why do we do these things? And so we're talking about this series, and it's simply called The Grudge. Now, I know there's a movie coming out later this month. It's a remake of a horror movie called The Grudge. This is not about that, just so you know. It's a little bit different thing, scenario as we move forward. And so we're going to talk about something that affects every single one of us. So just a quick raising of hands. How many of us know someone who is easily offended? They are easily offended, they are easily ticked off, they're easily angry. Just about every hand was raised, just so you know. Don't look at them, don't give them a nudge, don't do like that, right? Just so you understand. And just so you're aware of, perhaps someone raised their hand because they know you. Maybe that's what it is, like they know you as someone who is easily offended as well. And here's the reality. Most of us, we can find ourselves easily or find ourselves offended. Maybe not easily offended, but sooner or later we find ourselves offended. Most of us, we find ourselves annoyed by something in our life, or maybe someone in our life, what they're saying or what they're doing. Some of us, again, if we're honest, we can acknowledge that there are people in our lives that bother us. And even more than bothering us, they've actually hurt us. They've actually caused pain to us in our lives. And we look back and we kind of go, okay, how did that start? And often, we can find out that we get offended or get annoyed or get hurt by something that might have just started out as something as small and as insignificant. But here's the thing, it's usually the small things that trip us up. Like if you see a large tree root, you can pretty much avoid that as you're walking the woods, but it's the small ones that are hidden a little bit that kind of trip you up and get you off the path and get you off focus. I'm talking about things, again, that we say, you know what, it's a brand new year. We're not going to let that affect us. That affected us in 2019, but it's 2020. And then you're talking to someone, and you're talking to your children, and they roll their eyes at you. And you're like, ooh, it's on, right? And then your parents are talking to you, and they have that tone in their voice. And you said, it's not going to affect me anymore, but now you're offended at the way your parents are talking to you. Here it is, a brand new year. You're going to be nicer as a driver, nicer in traffic. And so you let someone in front of you. You let someone merge. And did they wave back? No. Did they acknowledge your niceness? No. They didn't do anything. You're like, next time, I'm not letting them in. I'm not going to let anybody in because they were not nice to me. Or, you know, when you're at Walmart and you let people walk in front of you, at least just do this. At least be like, thank you. At least a little nod. But they walk like they own the street. You're like, come on. I am not going to be nice to them. Again, and that offends us, all right? You text someone, and there's no response. Or worse, you see them start to respond. The bubbles showed up. And then the bubbles go away, and you're like, what happened? Like, what is going on? And you find yourselves, what? I don't get it. We're on social media, perhaps, and no one likes our stuff. No one comments on our pictures. And no one, perhaps they do the unpardonable sin. They actually unfollow us. It's the worst, right? The worst. And then a little bit later on, they try to friend you again. You're like, wait, I thought we were friends. And you find out they unfollowed you. You're like, I am not friending them again. Not going to give them a chance. Sorry, you had your chance, right? And so we find ourselves getting offended by things over and over and over again. But that's not just you and me. We live in an age of perpetual offense. We live in an age that is, we are people who are quick to judge, right? Something happens, we're like, okay, we know why they did that. And we are quick to condemn. We are quick to respond and to call foul. When someone that we know is clearly out of bounds, they did something to us, we know, okay, we can point out they did wrong. And we are quick to be offended. We are quick to take offense and be hurt. Here's the good news. If you are on a continuous search to be offended, you will always find what you're looking for. That's good news, right? You can succeed at being offended, right? You can succeed. If you are always looking for something to be offended for, you can find something to offend you. You can find something to tick you up. You can find something to annoy you. However, even though you might be successful at being offended, that is no way to win at life. That is no way to live a productive life. To live offended, to live looking for the annoyance. No one has ever said, you know what, my life is so much better since I've started to become bitter. No one has said that. Like, life was okay, but then I started becoming bitter, and life is better now. Life is so much better. No one has ever said, our marriage was all right, but then my spouse started holding grudges against me, and I started holding grudges against her, and we're so much better now. Our relationship's stronger, we talk a lot more, we yell a lot more, we communicate a lot more. No one has ever said that, right? So you can succeed at finding offense, but that's not a way for you and I to live. And here's a key thought I want us to go back to throughout this series. Your life, my life, is too short, and our calling is too great to be offended by something small, to be tripped up by something insignificant, to let the little things of life annoy us, and to allow us to be a people who end up carrying a grudge throughout this year. And so today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of look ahead a little bit to this year, 2020. We want to kind of get a plan for us to go, okay, when someone annoys me, when something happens, when something is done to me, when someone says something, when someone posts something, when that happens in 2020, because it's going to happen, how do I prepare for that? How do I be proactive and know what's going to happen, and I need a plan so that when it happens, I can be ready for it? Well, in Proverbs 19:11, here's what it says. Sensible people control their anger. They earn respect by overlooking wrongs. Proverbs 19:11 in the NIV says this, a person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. And so in the next few weeks, we're going to talk about stuff in the past that we're holding on to. But today, we're looking ahead, we're going to be proactive. And so here's what I want us to say. As we look ahead to 2020, when someone offends me, when I'm hurt, when I'm annoyed, before it even happens, I'm going to have this idea, I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm going to overlook it. When it happens, I'm going to rise above it. I'm over it. In fact, say that with me real quick. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm over it. All right? I'm over it. Before it even happens, you say, you know what? I'm going to overlook. It's to one's glory to overlook an offense. So how do we grow? How do we get over the grudge? How do we get over something before it even happens? How do we understand, okay, it's going to happen, but I'm going to be already over it before it even happens? The answer is that you and I, we want to be a people who seek to close the gap with love. Amen. Close the gap with love. Here's what Proverbs 10:12, it says, hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. The NIV says this, that love covers all that is wrong. Did my battery die somewhere? All right, that love covers all that is wrong for us in our minds and in our lives. So we want to be aware again that when it comes to there's a gap in our lives, we want to be aware again and watch out for things that we are acting to or maybe underreacting or overacting to. When it comes to our life, there's always a gap between our action and our reaction. You see, I could be offended by this, but I'm not. I'm not offended by technology. I'm not offended by these things. There's a higher calling, right? There's a higher calling.
Amen.
Yes.
Check. I have something. All right, we're adjusting. All right, so we set that up earlier, just so you know. This was a pre-planned thing. Just so you know. Can we give Greg a round of applause? Awesome. I'm really thankful audio team. Thank you guys so much. All right, so how do we get over the grudge? Well, we want to fill the gap with love, right? There's always a gap between an action and a reaction. All right, there's always a gap between an action and a reaction. Now, a few weeks ago, we were talking about a relationship series. And we said that every single one of us, we have expectations that we bring to a relationship, and then we have what we actually experience. And there's always a gap. We all expect something, and then we experience something different, and we get to choose what goes in the gap. Well, the same thing is true with every dynamic that we have when we encounter with other people, right? They do an action, and then we have a reaction, or vice versa. I do an action, and they have a reaction, and often there can be a gap between the action and the reaction. And we get to choose what goes in that gap. We get to decide what goes in that gap. The problem is, every single one of us, we are horrible interpreters. We are horrible interpreters. So we get to decide, okay, someone did this action to me, and we have to interpret, why did they do that? Or Or why did they say that? Or why did they act that way? And often we are very bad interpreters. And so something goes in that gap. It can often be a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of what's happening. The same thing is true for us. All right, we can do an action and someone interprets it the wrong way. We said something, we had a different tone, it was kind of awkward because we're kind of awkward anyway, and they took that to offense and to a wrong way, and they had an action and a reaction. There was a gap in between there, and something filled that gap. Now here's the thing, every single one of us, again, when we say something to somebody else, and somebody else gets offended, our first reaction is usually, no, I didn't mean that. Like that is not at all what I meant. That is not at all what I said. That is not what is going on. And we kind of get like, okay, why would you think I would say that? Why would you think I would be so hurtful? And we kind of have that reaction when someone misinterprets us. And the same thing is true. When we misinterpret other people, we kind of, maybe they would have that same reaction. And the reason for this is called this. It's the fundamental attribution error. Fundamental attribution error. And what this is simply is this, that every single one of us, we have a bias that we approach to a conversation, approach to a relationship. This bias is to attribute our own behavior to our circumstances while attributing someone else's actions to their character. Okay, so we attribute our stuff to our circumstances. Okay, we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. But when someone else acts to us, we say, no, that's just who they are. Okay, so we say something like this. All right, we say something and we're cross, and we're angry, or maybe awkward, and we're angry, and it misinterpreted it. We say, no, hold on. I was just tired. Right. I was stressed. Or even in the world we live in, I was hangry. Right? I was hunger angry. Right? I was hangry. I didn't mean that. That's not what it was. If you had just fed me, then I wouldn't have said those things. Right? So we kind of understand that. We deal with that as well. And so listen, I just came home from work, and this is the kids are doing this, and so I said this to them, and I was just tired. And what we do is we attribute our behavior to our circumstances. Right? But everyone else, no, you do that because you're a jerk. Right, you talk to me that way, but you just hate people. Like you're mean. Like you're a bad wife. You're a bad husband. You're a bad child. You're a bad parent. Right? We say that's just who you are. Right? And so what do? Well, our situation, we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. But your situation, no, I'm holding you to a different standard than I want to be held to. Right? That's the fundamental attribution error. And so when we deal with these things, we kind of go, okay, we're going to always have a gap between an action and a reaction. If I did something to disappoint you or to hurt you, here's my reason why. Come on, give me a break. But when you hurt me and you do something offensive to me, that's just because you're mean. That's just because you're rude. That's just because you need Jesus, right? That you need to be saved, right? Like you need that, right? And so we want to have this understanding. Okay, when I do this, how am I treating people? There's a gap between an action and a reaction, and I get to choose what I put in the gap. Now here's the thing, this morning, I was on my way to get my little cactus. Lowe's, right? I was there, Lowe's, that's right, Lowe's, all right? River City Marketplace, okay? I'm at the Airport Center Drive and that entrance into River City Marketplace, right there at the intersection. Okay, so we're there, not many cars there, it's early in the morning, all right? And so there's an ambulance coming, and it's coming off of 95, and it's going to go to Shands. So it's going to cut right, go right in front of that intersection and go past us to Shands. And so I'm at the red light. This ambulance is big, it's red, it's loud, sirens, lights are on, all right? It comes to the intersection, and this car that has the green light is going to go through it. Doesn't stop for the ambulance, doesn't stop for anything, just goes right through. And here's the thing, I had a reaction for the ambulance driver. Like, I'm not even driving the ambulance. I was like, that jerk, what is he thinking? What is he going through? Why is he doing like that? And what did I do? I said that person, and here's their character. I said, because they did not yield to that ambulance, they must not care about that person in the ambulance. They must not care about that driver. They must not be care about our servants who serve our community. They must not care. And I just put all this stuff in my mind. And you know how fast I did it? About half a second. Right? Then I was like, wait, I'm talking about the grudge. This is not good, right? And what did I do? In that moment, I attributed their character. But then I said, wait, well, what if that's me? What if I was going through it? Maybe the sun was in my eyes. Now, that wasn't a good excuse, the sun was behind them. But then, go with me, all right? Maybe the blue sky was in your eyes, right? Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they just came off third shift and they're tired. Right? Maybe they didn't understand. Maybe they just got the phone and that their mind's somewhere else. And maybe they just left the hospital themselves, busy loving. I mean, who knows all that's it. But in that moment, I did not give any benefit of the doubt. I simply said, this is your character. And in that moment, if it was me running through that green light, okay, I have a green light and I just didn't see it, I wasn't aware of it, I want someone to give me the benefit of the doubt. And so here's the thing. We all have a choice to make what goes in that gap. There's an action and a reaction. And so we're looking at the 2020. We will have stuff happen to us. We will have people say things that we will either miscommunicate or mishear, or maybe they actually meant it, but we'll take it the wrong way. And so we know what's going to happen. So we're going to say, okay, if I know what's going to happen, I get to choose what goes in that gap. And here's the thing. The devil would love to have us put in that gap more accusations. The devil, who is called the accuser, would actually love for us to heap more hatred upon that person. Would actually love to demean that person and say, you know what? Yeah, of course that person did that. She's always about herself. Yeah, of course he treated people that way. He simply doesn't care. Yeah, of course they said that. I can't trust him at all. Of course they would act that way. I guess we weren't really close anyway. And we have all these accusations. And here's the thing. The devil loves and wants to fill the gaps with accusations. And here's what accusations do. Accusations tear down relationships. Accusations erode marriages. Accusations diminish community, but they also destroy churches. So we want to be mindful. The devil loves to kill, steal, and destroy. So the devil would love us to accuse others. But here's what God says. No, I want you instead to fill the gaps with love. To fill the gaps with love. Proverbs 17:9 says this, that love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. Love gives the benefit of the doubt. Love is willing to say, you know what, I see this person acting this way or saying this, but I'm going to still trust that person in spite of what I'm seeing. Why? Because I love them. Love says, you know what, I'm going to assume the best. Maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe we've all been there. Maybe a situation going on, and I'm going to assume the best. And love believes in the other person. Now again, Jesus is teaching his followers. He says, here's what you need to do. If you want to get the whole Bible, figure out what it is to follow God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And love your neighbor as yourself. Listen, if you give yourself the benefit of the doubt, give the benefit of the doubt to others. Be willing to love them and to assume the best, to believe the best. And so again, there's an interaction at the house, right? The spouses are talking. Hey, did you take out the trash? Did you take out the trash yet today? Well, why would they say that? Well, why would they act that way? Well, why would they do that? That could be a reaction. We're going to accuse. They never trust me. They never think I'm going to actually do this. Instead, what if we say, you know what? Maybe they're just being curious. If I actually took the trash out today. And we want to assume the best. We're going to give the benefit of the doubt. Instead of jumping on their case, we're going to say, okay, I'm going to trust them. All right, you text your friend, and you saw the bubbles, and the bubbles went away, and there's no response. You know what? We're going to say, you know what? Maybe they put the phone down, and maybe they'll come back 3 hours or 3 days later and realize they didn't text me back. They'll text me then. All right? You know why I say that? Because I've done that, right? Like I intended to text, I put it down, I got busy. I got distracted. Maybe their phone died. Maybe they're looking for a charger cable. Who knows? But you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to say, okay, it's not because they hate me. It's not because they're a bad friend. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Hey, listen, we want to understand again that love trusts. Love believes. Love is one to say, listen, I'm going to assume the best about this instead of jumping to accusation to give you and say about your character when maybe there's a circumstance that caused this to happen in the first place. Ephesians 4:2 says this, that as a people who are following Jesus, we should always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other. Why? And how? Making allowance for each other's faults. Why? Because of your love. Listen, we have been loved by a great love by Jesus, and he calls us to live in light of his love. And so, because we love others, be humble, be gentle, be patient, make allowance when people hurt us. Make allowance when people say something that we would maybe easily be offended at. Make allowance when there's a miscommunication or a disruption in this relationship. Make allowance of that. Why? Because of love. Here's the thing. Often when someone is dealing with us and maybe they act out to us or lash out to us, often it's not about us. Something else put them in a bad mood, and we just happen to be there. Something else is going on in their life, and we just happen to catch the edge in their voice. When that person cut you off, maybe they're doing something else. Maybe it wasn't about you. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe they're dealing with bad news. Listen, every single one of us, we're dealing with things that no one else knows about. Right? So let's give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is going on. Maybe this is happening. Maybe we want to not be offended of that. Instead, we're going to fill the gap with love. What about Jeremy, you might say? What about the person where nothing's going on? They just actually are mean. They just actually are rude. Like, it doesn't require a day that ends in Y. Like, every day is that way. Like, they are just nasty, mean person. What about that person? Listen, we know again that there are people like that. There are people like that in our world. And chances are you might run into them. But here's the thing. Again, you still have to wonder, how did they get this way? What happened in their past? How were they raised? What was their home life like? What is going on in their finances? What is happening? What are they dealing with? And we want to always remember, listen, that hurt people hurt people. Something caused pain in their past. And so you and I, again, instead of being offended by, what if we seek to have compassion for? You see, we choose what goes in the gap. We get to decide what we put in that gap. And we get to say, listen, I could be offended by this, but I want to seek to understand why. What is going on? What are you dealing with? How can I help overcome or heal the hurt that you've encountered? God, what would you have me do in this person's life? So there's a big difference between carrying a grudge and knowing it's going to happen and letting these things trip us up versus us saying, okay, God, what would you have us do? How can we fill the gap with love? Again, Proverbs simply says this: sensible people control their temper. They earn respect by overlooking wrongs. Overlook offense. I'm over it. Okay, now am I saying that when you're offended today or tomorrow or next week or this year that it won't hurt? I'm not saying that. Okay? We're not pretending it didn't hurt. Yeah, sticks and stones, baby, it didn't hurt me, bounce right off, right? No, we're not saying that. We're saying, yeah, it still hurts, but I'm going to choose to overlook this offense. I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to magnify it. I'm not going to stir it up. And the reason why this is so important, again, is because every single one of us, even if you walked in here today and say, you know what, I don't really have a grudge. I don't really deal with anybody. I love everybody. All of us, without even really a long amount of time of thinking about it, we can remember someone that hurt us. And when you think on it, you're like, you know what, that's still there, and it still hurts. And there's still a scar there. So we all understand, okay, this is reality of life, and we want to overlook the offense. We want to be proactive ahead of time. So when this happens, God, help me to overlook. And what this really looks like, again, is God, help me to offer forgiveness in real time. As I'm being offended, I'm going to forgive. As I'm being hurt, I'm going to seek to show compassion. As this is happening, I'm going to fill the gap with love. As this is happening, I'm going to let it go. I know I won't sing for you, just so you know, but even if it hurts, I'm going to offer forgiveness in real time. And that is how we're proactive, because we know there's always a gap, and we get to choose what goes in that gap. We get to choose what we put in there looking ahead. And so you find out from your friends that other students from your school were invited to a party and you didn't get the invite. You know what? I'm over it. I'm not going to magnify this. I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm not going to go for this. I'm going to seek to forgive in real time. Someone makes a rude comment to you on social media. I'm over it. I'm not going to, as it's happening, yes, it hurt, but you know what? There's something else. There's a higher calling. There's more to life than this. It's a small thing in the beginning. I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm going to trust in the Lord. I'm going to assume the best about them. All right? You had your family over and for the holidays, and one of your in-laws commented on your kids and how you are parenting the wrong way. And you're thinking about that right now. You forgot about it, but now you're bringing it back to mind right now. How you doing? In real time, hold on, no, I'm going to forgive them. I'm over it. Yeah, they had that opinion, but that's just an opinion. I'm going to assume the best. Maybe they love my kids, and they want what's best for them. I'm going to assume the best, and I'm going to show love. And here's the thing. Again, we have a higher calling and a higher mission. Imagine Jesus. Imagine if Jesus had gotten off mission. He's there at the end of a long day. Matthew, come on. I was giving the Sermon on the Mount, and you weren't paying attention. You were doodling there. You were getting distracted by the butterflies. I don't know what we're doing. One of you fell asleep. I won't name your name. You fell. I can't believe you did this. You know, after a long day, I was going to do this miracle to calm the water, but I remember the Pharisees, they were giving me dirty looks the whole time I was teaching, and man, I just can't believe, those Pharisees. You know what, Thomas, you didn't compliment my miracle. You kind of even had the attitude, yeah, I saw that before, I do that again. Like, do something else. Like, Tom, I can't believe I can't believe you. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe, what if Jesus had gotten off mission? Well, the mission wouldn't have been accomplished. And here's the mission that Jesus says, I have come to show the love of the Father. The way the Father has loved me, Jesus says, I have loved you. So nothing distracted Jesus from the mission that he had. Listen, as followers of Christ, the calling ahead of us is greater than the offenses that are behind us. We understand, okay, we must stay on mission. We must choose to close the gap with love. The devil wants us to accuse. We don't want to respond and go where that spirit is leading us. We want to follow God. You want us to love. So God, show us how to love. Let's be proactive ahead of time. And God, when my spouse offends me, God, help me to show the same way that I would want the benefit of the doubt from them. God, let me have the benefit of the doubt from them. Help me to show love. And when I'm offended by someone at school or one of my friends or ministry, God, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to choose to fill the gap with love. Listen, our culture is so angry. So angry. And we are so divisive, perhaps more than ever. So I want to be reminded again, listen, in 2020, it's not going to get better just on its own. We must be proactive as followers of Christ. Listen, here's the deal. Choose what goes in the gap. And even be proactive. Listen, say, you know what? This year, I'm not going to get in any social media battles. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have the back and forth. I'm not going to go after that. I'm not going to do those things. And listen, it's 2020. It's an election year. Choose now. We're not going to do this. We're not going to get dirty. We're not going to get nasty. We're not going to name call. We're not going to fight social media battles. Why? Because no one wins. No one wins a social media battle. As followers of Christ, let's choose. You know what? We will never defend our God. We'll never defend the Bible. We'll never defend our theology with hatred. That's not our way. We choose love. We choose to be proactive. We choose to give the benefit of the doubt. We choose to say, first of all, God, before I respond, I belong to you. What do you want me to say? How do you want me to respond? I am yours. What would you have me do in this situation? And here's the thing. We want to be a people who extend grace. Why? Because Jesus did it for us. I mean, I stand here today. You know how many times I've offended God? I've offended God over and over and over again. And what does he do? He extends grace and mercy and love. This is our great God. This is the cross, the message of Jesus Christ. And so we want to be a people, because we've received grace, we want to give grace. Listen, our life is too short, and our calling is too great to be offended by something small. By the power of Jesus, let's say 2020, before we get hurt, I'm over it. We're going to forgive in real time. We're not going to carry these grudges. We're not going to hold on to them. We're going to put these down in a proactive way. I would encourage you to come back next few weeks and we talk about the stuff that we're holding from the past. How do we deal with those things? How do we move forward? Maybe you're here today and say, you know what, Jeremy, you keep talking about calling and higher calling and belonging to Jesus. I don't even know what that means. But listen, what that simply means is that we didn't pray a prayer, that we actually have given our lives to Christ. We actually are depending on him for everything of who we are. And we turn our life over to him. And maybe that's what you need to do this year. I would encourage you to at least wrestle with that, consider with that. Perhaps that's why God brought you here today, that you would give your life to him and trust in him. And not just pray a prayer, that's where it begins, but actually say, Jesus, my life is now yours. I'm going to trust in you from this day forward. I would encourage you to wrestle with that, consider that, maybe even ask God, would you have me to follow you? Be willing to pray a bold, honest prayer like that before God, even now. Let's just close in a word of prayer together. Father God, we love you. God, we thank you for who you are. God, thank you for your love for us. And God, I pray again, even as I talk about this message, Lord, I know I'm going to be tested maybe in the next hour. That I'll be offended by something or not give someone the benefit of the doubt. God, I pray that you would help me to be proactive to remember your word. God, I pray that you would help us as your church. Lord, this day we might be tested. God, this day, this year, this week, it could come. And it might come when we're tired. And it might come when we're already hungry. It might come when we're already stressed and anxious. And it's just the last straw. God, in that moment, give us your strength. Give us your peace. And give us the ability to extend grace the way that you've given grace to us. In fact, remind us in that moment of how much you love us and how we can love and show that love to others. God, I pray for someone in here today who's maybe doesn't know you, hasn't given their life to you. God, I pray that right now you would pursue them. Chase them down. Let them know, reveal to them how much you love them. And God, I pray that you would win their heart, that they would follow you and trust you with their lives. Throughout this year, throughout the rest of their life. God, we thank you once again for this time. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.